I want to tell you about the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me my whole entire life. It was about 8 years ago, and I was asked to give a talk about a topic that I knew very little about. I had very little time to prepare, and I started with my first couple of lines. I introduced myself, and when I started to try and explain what this thing was, this project, and how it worked, I realized pretty quickly in the back of my mind that I didn't really know what I was talking about. My brain literally just stalled like a computer processor, and I just froze like a deer in headlights. It is literally everyone's worst nightmare to freeze in front of a group while you're speaking in public. And it happened to me. So outside of the time I peed my pants in 6th grade in front of all my classmates, this was the rock bottom of my professional career. Hey friends, I'm Vik Harrison, and you are watching The Branded Startup. This is the place where we talk about how to create an authentic and successful brand on any budget. So if you are building a brand, and if you are an entrepreneur or a founder or a business owner, it is likely that one day soon you're gonna have to speak in front of a group of people. You're gonna have to get on stage and explain what your company is all about. So since my big and epic, horrendous failure in public speaking about 8 years ago, I have regained my confidence, and I have put together sort of a list of strategies and techniques for preparing myself before a talk that have really since helped me get in front of hundreds of people and speak with confidence and actually even enjoy public speaking while I'm doing it. So last week I gave a talk at Yellow Conference, which is a women's gathering in New York City, and it was about 250 young women. I had a blast giving my talk. I knew my content really well, and the key to all of this is no doubt 100% preparation. What do you need to prepare for a great public talk? So number one, you obviously need your big idea. And my advice for you would be that you shouldn't have more than one big overarching idea in your entire talk. If you have 3 or 4 big ideas, it's going to be too much for the audience. So the idea, for example, might be why your business is important and what it does. You might introduce yourself in the beginning of your talk by telling an interesting story of why you started your business and why it matters to you. Then you would talk about the products that you make, and you would tell human stories around those products, and you would wrap it up with how the audience can engage with you, what this means for their lives, and how their lives would be better if they engage with your business. One big idea, no more than that. One big idea for your whole presentation. And this is another crucial point. You absolutely have to be familiar with your content in order to speak about it. This is the mistake I made when I froze on stage 8 years ago, is I was not familiar with the content that I was speaking about. So you can either get really familiar with your content, or you can choose to only speak about content that is innately familiar to you. Like for example, if you're asked to give your story, the story of your life, you're likely intimately familiar with your own story, so you're gonna have to do less preparation than you would if you had to speak about a new product that your company has created or an idea that you've just started researching and working with. You're gonna need more preparation for those more unfamiliar topics. Okay, so now that you have your big idea for your talk and you've sort of outlined the structure of it, I find there are 2 ways that you can document this structure that you can actually use when you're up on stage. One is you can write it out sentence by sentence. I know some people who are really good at referencing their notes, quickly glancing down to see where they're at, but for the most part remaining engaged with the audience and keeping eye contact. So that's good if you're giving a talk with absolutely no visuals or slides. The way I like to do it instead, this is my personal favorite, is I love using a lot of visuals. I love using slides. So I give a very highly visual talk, and I would say that you can find slides for almost any idea. And often what I do, if the idea is really abstract, is I'll put words up on the screen as my slides, or I'll use quotes on the screen. So for example, when I'm talking about how the human brain processes information, I'll put up this slide and I'll say, the human brain can't process information in the form of raw data, information, and facts. It can only process it by turning it into a story. And I'll show this slide, which will be my cue to say that sentence. So this really helps me ensure that at any point in my talk, if I get a little bit confused or off track, I can simply click to the next slide, which will trigger in my brain the new sentence that I know goes with that slide because I've already rehearsed it in my living room. So I think slides are not only a great way to keep yourself on track with your presentation, they also help the audience stay more engaged because there's something constantly up on the screen. I often see people literally taking a photo with their iPhone of my slides because I'll usually put up a smart quote from an author or a writer. So it helps the audience stay engaged with your talk. It helps you stay on track. Slides are a really good idea. They don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be over-designed. They can just be simple text or words on a screen or pictures or photos from your life. So you have your big idea and you have your slides. Now let's talk about the final game-changing preparation topic, which is rehearsing your presentation. So the biggest deception that I embraced for so many years that really actually held me back and made me suck in front of audiences was that I thought that it would just be natural. It would just come natural to me when I would get up on stage. The fact is though, that most people who give a seemingly effortless talk publicly, like a TED Talk for example, prepare for months and months at a time. And that's what makes them so effortless and so relaxed on stage. So it's really the opposite of what it looks like. It looks like they're effortlessly just talking in front of a big audience. In fact, they have memorized and prepared that content for hours and hours. Get the idea. If you want to be good, you got to practice every chance you get. So rehearsing your presentation is the number one thing I found that helps me stay absolutely calm, chill, lowers my anxiety because I know my content. Knowing your content by rehearsing it over and over in your living room, in your bathroom, while you're taking a shower will absolutely change the game. And I'm not just talking about rehearsing it the day before or in the morning of. I start rehearsing about 5 days before I give my presentation. And I do this because I learned that when you sleep, your brain solidifies what you've rehearsed even more deeply into your brain. So if you only rehearse the day before, you only have one sleep cycle to sort of have that information get deep into your head. If you get about 10 full start to finish rehearsals in, what will happen is you will sort of naturally find yourself falling back on well-formed sentences that make up all of your ideas throughout your talk. So then when you're up on stage and you're a little bit nervous, your cortisol levels spike, and when your cortisol levels are high, your cognitive function is naturally lowered. So you think worse when you're nervous. And that's why it's so important to rehearse, because you're not going to be able to think as well up on stage. So what will happen is you will fall back on those sentences that you practiced. You'll just naturally be able to pull them up from your memory because you rehearsed, because you practiced, because you slept on all of those ideas for a week ahead of time. final tip that has probably had the most profound impact on getting myself to relax and reducing my anxiety is remember that nobody benefits when you're nervous up on stage. When you are nervous on stage, you're doing a disservice to your audience. Your audience doesn't need or want you to come up there with your nervous energy. Your audience, who's paid money to hear you speak, who's paid money to be at that conference, or who just, gave up their lunch hour to come see you speak in front of your whole office, they're not doing that so they can sit in the audience and see a nervous speaker. So remembering that for me has strangely helped me to relax, because I guess I just realized now that nervous energy is completely useless and it serves nobody. And if you just think of it that way, reframe it in your mind, you're less likely to get nervous. All right, guys, I hope that this video was helpful. Hit that like button if you liked this video, which lets me know that I should make more content like this, and hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already so that you are sure not to miss any of my videos going forward. I'll see you soon.